Okay, so something new again. The second time this month I'm doing new things. Wow, how impressive is that? So I'm joined by Dan today. How are you doing, Dan?
I'm all right. How are you, Matt?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. Good, thanks. And we're just going to have a quick chat about our thoughts on the Sunrise Cup. Sort of 2/3 of the way through the month. We'll be talking about the new one soon. So good to get a bit of a last word on this one. Yeah, just see what we think, really. I've asked Dan to come on because, well, not only was Dan my first opponent of this month and this season, in fact, but Dan's got a team that I think is what I like a lot about this cup. And well, do you want to tell people what team you've been running is, Dan?
So I've been running, and now I've got to think about what my team actually is.
Well, you've had the big four.
Yeah, I did have the big four. I had Vigoroth, I had G-Fisk, I had a Bomber Snow. I don't think who else I had. Shadow Swampert, Lugia, and for the life of me now, you've caught me off guard. I can't remember my last one. Mantine.
There we
Mantine.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got the big four, and then two things that I think would be best described as spicy. And when this cup first came out, I was sort of trying to make heads or tails of it, and you may have seen my scribbles on my not a meta simplified video, and it took me 2 or 3 goes at trying to visualize how this might work, and because it kept going back to those 4, and initially I felt a bit like, oh, this is rubbish, it's quite restrictive. It's like Sorcerer's Cup, not Sorcerer's, it's like Catacomb Cup, where you've got Lapras, Venusaur, Sudowoodo, and a bug type Vespiquen people like, mate. And if you bring in anything else, you're at a disadvantage. And I thought about that for a long time, and I spoke with Tenacity about this as well. We spoke in the Sheffield chat about it, and Tenacity, Ryan said it's like pick those 4, and then throw 2 darts at a dartboard and see what you land on. And I agree with him, actually, to an extent, because you can do that. But what I like about this meta is that those 4 are so really well balanced, that with a bit of energy they all beat each other in 0s or 1s. Like if Mantine gets a 2-bubble lead, it beats a Bomber Snow in 0s. I think if a Bomber Snow gets a 2 Powder Snow lead or something like that, it beats Vigoroth in 0s. Like they have that sort of relationship. So actually, you don't have to run all 3. You can run 2 of them, and then you can get your darts out and pick those other ones. And Lugia in particular was something that I thought was spectacular. And I just wanted to get your opinion on, well, first of all, on that setup of having the big 4 and then the 2 extra. Like, what do you think to that as a sort of setup for a meta? Because it's very much a team type. When you look down the lists of teams in tournaments, you see a lot of those 4 and then 2 other things. Like, what do you think to that? How do you think that affects the meta? Like, good, bad?
I thought it was quite good, to be honest. I do like quite a tight meta. Catacomb was probably my best cup last year. And I didn't bring what people necessarily thought of. I kind of looked at the side grades and things like that. I ran Caracosta through the entire thing, and it was brilliant for me, to be honest. So I do like a tight meta. I don't like it to be too varied. I'm not Matt Brewer. I'm not Tenacity. I'm not, one of the top players in the country. I'm someone I like to think I'm all right and I'm good and I understand how to play the game. But again, I have to bring something different to the table. So when you have got that core meta that everyone is going to bring, it works well for me in a sense that I've got a base to work with, but then I can start playing a bit more. As if it was too open, I think me personally, I would be too. I'd end up with a team full of spice and, be throwing out stupid stuff out there and things like that. So I like to have a certain amount of control over what I'm playing with. But I do get you with having throwing a dart at two other things. That isn't the strategy I took, by the way. There was a little bit of thought into
Oh no!
why I chose them.
No, sorry, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant at all by that. What I meant was, I know I'm speaking about Lugia in particular here rather than the Swampert, because Lugia was something I practiced with a lot. It felt to me that because those four could reliably, well, not reliably, but you could find conditions in which they all beat each other. It always felt to me that you could bring two of those with one of your dartboard too, and that meant that unlike in the Catacomb Cup, you could actually use those two. I mean, maybe I'm speaking for myself here, but Catacomb, I always felt like if I was, when I was running lines with Rhyperia in or Pinsir in, I always felt like this could go horribly, horribly wrong. Whereas here, I've never quite had that feeling. I mean, yeah, fine. If I choose to lead Dragonite, then yeah, it could go horribly, horribly wrong, but that's on me, right? And Dragonite's a very polarizing example. Something like Lugia. Lugia is that kind of mon where, and there's so many of them in this cup. There's things like Drifblim. There's things like Blaziken, I think is really viable. Pelipper, Ferrothorn. Just like I think Whimsicott.
With Pelipper and Ferrothorn, I think you wouldn't have them alongside your big four. You wouldn't have. You could, I suppose, but
I mean, I wouldn't, but some people have, and it's worked. Like I've lost to teams with double Waterflies. Yeah,
actually, so have I. Actually, I lost to an Articuno, a Pelipper, and a Mantine, and it was a very,
Articuno is another great example. Yeah, and I think what's great about this meta is that, and Lugia is the one I want to keep coming back to. It's something that clearly you enjoy using.
Yeah. It's a great. I mean, forget that it's a flying tank, because it is a flying tank and it can take so many hits, but the moves it has as well are the very good moves. I mean, you hit that Hydro Pump on something and it's a killer against anything. There's not many things that can stand up to it. And again, you've got the Sky Attacks, which are very, very powerful move. So if you get two of them back to back, people don't know if you're going to go with the big nuke. So again, you're taking the shield and then you're hitting them again with another actually quite a decent move as well. So, or you're switching out, saving one in the back so you can come in on something. Part of my reasoning was I wanted to beat other things. And that's, again, I know you don't rate Shadow Swampert for it, but Shadow Swampert, again, was to help me beat the things that I felt I was weak to. I was struggling with things like coming up against a Bomber Snows. A Shadow Swampert can beat in a Bomber Snow because it is so quick. Granted, if they start putting shields into it, you're not going to beat them, but you are taking them shields otherwise, which again was to try and give me the advantage for when I was coming in with my bigger off afterwards.
Yeah, that
I wasn't necessarily, there was a logic behind why I was doing it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think I think that's what I liked about this cup, is that those are the two things. Yeah, you could just throw a dartboard, or you could pick things that you really like and it'd still be useful. And that leaves the choice up to you as to whether you want to run the big in any line, whether you think, right, my best chance of winning is just to run Mantine, Vigoroth, G-Fist every line. And that's completely valid. And you might think my best chance of winning is expecting them to run Mantine, Vigoroth, G-Fist every line, which is why I brought these fun things that I like using, but they're also good. And I think this meta's got a really nice balance of that. I think again, coming back to those big four, I think it comes down to that nice balance where they can all find win conditions versus each other, because I mean, in any cup that G-Fist and Vigoroth are in, they're always very good. That's just how the bill. But I mean, they have flaws in that G-Fisk is doing very little fast move damage. It's completely dependent on its charge moves. Vigoroth has the ability to be completely walled. It's not. I mean, as great a move as counter is, it's not stab, and the steals here. Well, Ferrothorn isn't actually weak to bulldoze, and G-Fisk is fast and can get the earthquake. You know, and they have these Mantine with Bubble Beam. If you go for, I was in a match earlier, and I led Mantine into Vigoroth, and I thought, yeah, this is amazing. So I was throwing Bubble Beams, and I shielded the first body slam because I'm thinking, right, I'll shield the first one because that's free. And I got to the point where I'm a shield down and I'm about to lose the matchup because all I've been doing is throwing Bubble Beams and not actually doing any damage. And
How many Bubble Beams did you throw?
A lot, mate. A lot. Yeah, I was like, it's going to shield sooner. I'm like, yeah. And of course, Abomasnow has that crippling weakness to AWAC, where, and we've seen it. We've seen AWAC plenty of times before, where if AWAC can farm anything down, and there isn't anything that wants to take a shadow ball. So these, the core things have flaws. They have side grades, whereas in Catacomb, I felt like that was less the case, and I felt like Lapras was the ice type, like Sudowoodo was the counter user.
I was going to say I didn't use Lapras. I'm trying to think what I used as my ice type. I didn't use Lapras though.
Frostlass?
Yes,
Maybe?
I was using Frostlass. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean that's fair. Yeah. I mean, I love Frostlass. I don't know why I didn't use it.
Yeah, I just remember getting completely destroyed by you with Rhyperior, to be honest. And Lloyd as well destroyed me with Rhyperior. Seemed to come up against Rhyperiors and just get absolutely nailed with my team, to be honest. But
well,
yeah.
Well, that was what I was. I mean, what I was trying to do with Rhyperior there, I guess, is essentially what we've been trying to do. Is what this cup has made it so easy to do with picks like Lugia, with picks like Shadow Dragonite on my end. With picks like Driftbane, a well-played Zapdos here is just phenomenal. And I feel like here there's just enough wiggle room within that core four to allow other things in, without them being like strictly better or like there's a noticeable difference between those four and the other things, but it's not huge. And that's what I was trying to do with Rhyperior and Catacomb, and it just didn't work because it just felt like the difference was too big. Looking back, like if I'm saying that the core four in that cup was Venusaur, Lapras, Vespiquen, and Sudowoodo, why am I bringing Rhyperior there? Yeah, like the Rhyperior is there to beat everything else that isn't the core four, but that core four is so strong that no one's using anything else. And I think that's where this cup strikes the balance. I think. Does that make sense? Like,
no, I do get what you're saying. I'm trying to now think. There wasn't. You say that though the core four. I don't think I've come into many games where I've just played against the core four. It's the everything else that. Maybe it's because people get bored of the core four so quickly, but. Yeah, I think it's people have been playing with the everything else more than they have been with that.
And that's why I think this cup's so great. It's so good because the everything else has play. Which makes like it feels to me like a proper meta. Like you've got the anti-meta, you've got the meta, you've got the anti-meta, and then like the anti-meta, which lives the core. Like, you know. Yeah, I just think this is.
It has been a really enjoyable cup. It has been. I've had some great matches in it, and to be honest, I've done my 6. Well, I've already entered all my 6 now, and I think I've entered in 2 more tournaments as well on top of that, which I'm actually even more looking forward to now because the pressure's kind of off and it's a bit more experiment and a bit more. Why we do it is because we enjoy it, really. So
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it has been a fun, and as much as a little part of my soul dies every time I use Mantine or like every time you end up in that dreadful Theraphon mirror match, like.
How many timeouts have you had this cup? Because I've had 2 timeouts. No, I've had 3 timeouts. One of them actually just ended, but it came up the timeout logo, and that is purely down to man team versus man team, where you just sat there bubbling each other until someone blinks. You know, who's gonna trip out first? Who's gonna go out first? I'm just gonna keep on bubbling you down.
Yeah, do you know what? I think I've only had 2, and I can't remember who the first one was against, but I remember the second one vividly because it was against Luke XP in All Stars, and it was my Ferrothorn was just farming up to try and get that killing blow on the G-Fist to win the game, and just as I was like trying to spam the power whip, time up, and I lost on it. So I remember that one vividly, and I was fuming. But anyway, as much as there are those tedious mirrors, and man team can be a bit slow and whatever, like you don't have to play those to do well. And I think I've noticed that as the months gone on, like I started off, I was really keen on my Ferrothorn lead.
Yeah, we know we watched a really long video on it, Matt.
2 really long videos. I've learned my lesson on those. I've learned my lesson on those, I promise. Yeah.
They were good, mate. I watched them both.
Thanks. Sorry. Yeah, so I really liked my Theraton lead, but now, some part of me just thinks, as the cup's going on, I'm seeing more and more of just people running the big core 3, which is fine. And at that point, I just think, right, well, I'm just going to lead Dragonite and just try and win. Yeah, and that, I mean, it's risky, but it's fun, and not only is it, and it's not risky without the chance of a reward. Without the chance of a reward, like Rhyperior often felt, it feels more like the Quillfish from Sorceress, where it's risky, but it's an actual strategy. Like it's it's not just pure rock paper scissors like Rhyperior was. And I feel like as well, because as you say, everyone's using the 6. What you do in the first game and what your opponents do in the first game has more of it feels to me anyway, like it has more of an effect on what you might do in the second and third and so on. And it just makes the whole, it makes each round like a mini event in itself. I don't know what you think.
No, I do agree. There's a lot more. Again, as you said, because you've got the core there, it's a lot more sort of variance with that, and people are throwing in different things because, you're not wanting to get hit by the same thing again and again and again, and you kind of think, oh, well, I know what that does, so I'm going to go in with this, and I'm just going to fly over you with a Lugia and just keep on going it because you're not leading G-Fisk. Because I led with Vigoroth last time, so you're not leading with G-Fisk this time, so I'm just going to go straight in with this. And I do totally get what you're saying with that.
And that for me, that sort of mind game and that sort of, and knowing that if you get absolutely whomped by a single thing in your line of 3, knowing that that's your fault and like you can choose to take that risk if you want to, that's for me is what makes the game fun and distinguishes it from GBL. And I think that's a sign of a good meta, in my opinion. Like when we look back at the ones down the sort of seasons that we've had, like what would you say the best metas we've had have been? Like,
I really liked Sinister. I liked Sinister the first time round, not the second time round.
Completely, yeah.
I think I had so many second place finishes in Sinister the first time round, and I was just, sometimes you are just not outclassed, but you're just outplayed by somebody. And I was like, you hold your hands up and you're like, wow. I really enjoyed that cup. I think I used about 4 different teams during the space of that cup. And it was while we were still able to do in-person cups. So I travelled everywhere and I met trainers from all over the place, which was really, really good fun. Again, I enjoyed Cat. I'm probably the only person who did enjoy Catacomb.
Well, each to their own.
But I'd had such a lockdown was horrible for me. As far as my game was concerned anyway, I sucked at Voyager and I hated Forest. I just think because I had such a bad Voyager that Forest just hit me all the wrong ways.
Sure.
And Sorcerers, I started to enjoy it again throughout, which was a really nice kind of cup Sorcerers, to be honest. It was,
yeah,
there was different strategies. You had a very good strategy for Sorcerers. I think it was probably the first time I did a video with you with Sorcerers, and you did really well at it.
Was that Quillfish or the Rat Strat?
That was the Rat Strat.
The Rat Strat.
Was it not, or was it?
I mean, they both played together a lot of the time, actually, to be fair.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But there was a lot of different variants. People were using quite different stuff. I don't think I was using near enough anything you were using, and I still had quite a good cup throughout it. So Catcoon came at the right time for me, and I felt my game was starting to go back on the upward shift. So I was really disappointed the season ended, to be honest, when it did. Which is one of the good things about having Jim, is the fact that I can continue playing on, and there is always custom metas and things like that out there. So
yeah, I think the point you make about Sinister and certainly Sorceress. I mean, when I think of cups that have been really good metas, I think of Sinister definitely is up there, but my mind immediately jumps to Sorceress and Twilight, and to a lesser extent Fusion, where I feel like in all those cups people have had 6 months and they've brought 6 months, and again it's and when you I feel like, well, certainly with Sinister it felt like there was a real tight core of, like, you had a Ghost, you had Bastiodon or Steelix or both, and a fighter, but there was room to play around the edges with things that sort of beat both but not particularly well, like things like Gallade, things like Slowbro, that sort of stuff. And Twilight and Sorceress, there was just so much that was usable, like it, and I think when you look down tournament lists of, like, team lists of teams that have entered into the current cup, Sunrise Cup, forgot what it was called then. Yeah, when you look down the team list, you see so much variation, but it's all stuff you think, oh, that could cause me a problem. Like, oh, that could cause me. You don't. I don't look at a team and think, well, I just pick this, and this, and win. Like, you know.
Yeah.
And again, I put that down to the fact that that core 4, whilst it's good, it isn't airtight, watertight, and which, I mean, I know it's a long time ago now, but let's take a look back at Boulder. Like, I didn't actually play Boulder, but from what I hear, Skarmory, Medicham, then possibly either another Skarmory or Medicham, you know, and it seems like what reason do you have to run anything else?
Yeah, there was every team contained a Skarmory and a Medicham, and Medi was in every single line of 3. You know, without being horrible to the cup itself, it was very, very prevalent. It was, yeah.
And I think, I mean, as much as I enjoyed Rose, I think there's arguments to be similarities to be drawn there as well. Like, every team had a Probo, every line of 3 had a Probopass, every line of 3 had a Marowak, and if you didn't, you were taking a bit of a risk. Well, I mean, I enjoyed it even despite that, because I managed to find ways of making other things work, you know, with those two. But I just kind of feel that certainly everyone I've spoke to about this cup has found ways of making everything work. Like, everyone's using the 6, and that's just, well, not only is it good because the games are less boring, but it means team building, and adding your 6 is a skill, and it's really important in these cups as well. So I think not only is it more fun, but there's more skill involved in the cup as well.
I think, as you said, with the 2 that you pick, you're actually picking something you like to use. You know, going back to Lugia again, I tried really hard to get that Lugia, and it's got decent IVs, which was a feat in itself. But I can't tell you how many I traded to get one below 1500. Honestly, it was ridiculous amount to get it there. So anytime I've got a chance to kind of flop it out, I'm gonna Yeah, it was the only words that could come to mind,
no,
really.
fair
You
enough.
know, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring it. You know, I've tried to use it in quite a few different cups, and it's not really panned out. But it's one I definitely enjoy playing with. So,
Yeah.
and I think people have felt like that about this cup, and felt, oh well, if I use this, it's something I'm going to enjoy using, and I know what it does, and I know what it beats, and I know how it can affect, as you said, the core 4.
Yeah, and I know what it's going to be weak to, and I know the core 4, 2 of the core 4 will cover me against that. Yeah, and I think that's the crux of it. Well, let's leave it there. I think Silph, more of the same, please. Great job, great start to the season.
Yeah.
Looking forward to see what the next one has in store. Nice one. Well, thanks a lot, mate. Thanks for joining, and
thanks for having me, Matt. Thanks for chatting with us. Cheers.
Quality. See you later.
See you now.